Welcome to my vineyard ramble. We're actually in week 7 now, so this is the 7th week I've been doing my rambles, and today I've brought you back to a very special vineyard, and it's a vineyard that it's a very important day today because I'm actually going to sign for this vineyard with Jean-Marc. So this is a vineyard that we purchased this year. So those of you may be thinking, oh, I know what it is already. Just hold on to that while I show you a leaf in a minute, but just to situate those of you who haven't been here before. So if I turn this way, you can see it's rather cloudy, but it's not raining, which is good. So behind the olive tree, we've got the canigou that's just hidden in the clouds. There's a little bit of snow left on it, but that's the foot of the Pyrenees, that's in the Roussillon. Basically that first ridge you can see, behind that is the Roussillon. It's about 6 kilometres away. If I come around here, you can see the Totteval Tower. So the Tour de Totteval, oldest man in Europe, was discovered in a cave in Totteval. Come around behind those lovely rocks and the cliffs is the Mediterranean. Not really a day for going to the Mediterranean today. Come around here. See lovely vineyards, and here, wow, just in the distance, this is a Cathar castle, the Chateau d'Aguilar, and behind that, we're going down in the Narbonne direction. So we're just on the edge of the Languedoc. Come around here, again towards Narbonne. I'm going to face what is now the north wind, so you can tell when I'm facing north because you can probably hear the wind in the mic a little bit. Hope you can still hear me. And then turn around and you've got the Toche, the wonderful Toche mountain behind me, and behind that Carcassonne in that direction. And morning Diane, so I've got Diane out here this morning and lovely just sheltering in the olive tree. So as you can probably hear, it's a little bit windy. Don't worry, that's the north wind, so that's fantastic that we've got a bit of north wind. It's also rather chilly. Hi Mum and Dad, good to see you. So it's also rather chilly, which is actually really good for the mildew, because this is the biggest threat at the moment, is the mildew. But because it's nice and windy, it's a north wind, which is really good, and it's also cold. It's about 13-14 degrees. So let's have a look at the vines. Let's get straight. So as I said, this is a vineyard that we purchased this year. Okay, I know, let's see. Some of you have probably got it already, but so here's a leaf. If I spread it out, you can see it's almost round, hardly any indentations in it at all. So it's almost like a plate, and now it's sort of covering my hand almost. And it's quite waxy on the top. And if you turn it over, you can see it's really smooth, no hairs on there at all. So it's really smooth, thick, waxy, and not that indented. So anybody got any idea? Oh, Gilles thinks she knows what this one. Anybody else think you know which grape variety? Grenache, that's right, the Schnoodle. This is Grenache. It's actually Grenache Gris, so a really rare, unusual grape, Grenache Gris, and that's why we purchased this vineyard, because there's actually a total of 1 hectare of Grenache, 70-year-old Grenache Gris. But you can see that the vines are coming along really nicely. Getting much bigger. I looked back at the video on YouTube actually this morning of, I think it's a Ramble number 7, so just when we started, and they're tiny, so you can really see the progression. But let's take a closer look, and here you can actually see, so this is just having, that's what I was looking for. You see the flowers? So just flowering. So this is really quite late flowering. That's because we've pruned it so late. So we actually pruned this one quite late. So the flowers are still on there, and then we'll see some other ones. Some of them haven't even started flowering on this. But as we walk around the vineyard, you'll see that there are some others that have actually grained and have started producing. You can see where the grapes are going to be. So just coming up here, look at those, lovely. Oh, it is a little bit chilly. And well, you can see somebody in the background working in the vineyard, so that's something I'm going to show you in a minute. But just before I do, I just nip across here because there was something I wanted to show you, a couple of things. So mainly Grenache Gris, and we make 100% Grenache Gris at the moment, and that is from Morey. It's from our vineyard in Morey. So we thought it'd be really interesting to buy some Grenache Gris here as well. It makes an absolutely delicious style of wine. It's very mineral, lovely freshness to it. But look at this, can you see that? A potted vine. So this was one of the curiosities when we bought the vineyard. I think that's probably been planted in there. It's probably to protect it from rabbits when it was planted, and then somebody actually forgot to take it off. And then something else I wanted to show you, and this is a little secret thing that lots of people did in these vineyards, and that is, can you see here, there's just a couple of vines that are a little bit smaller. So here I can see it a little bit smaller, and this, can you see? Oh, that one. So, let me show you a better one. Here, lovely, lovely. So look at that. How beautiful is that? So that's a completely different grape variety. We haven't seen much of this one before. Can you see how beautifully dainty the leaves are? It's almost like lace here, really indented. Anybody have an idea? Yeah, it's a bonsai vine. Anybody any idea of the grape variety here? It's so beautiful, so pretty, and a sort of a pinkish colour coming up to the top. So that is actually a muscat vine. So this is a muscat vine, and what the growers used to do, so 70 years ago when they planted the vine, they would also always put a couple of muscat vines in the vineyard, so that when they're picking the grapes, they could actually come and eat the muscat because it's so deliciously sweet. So no, it wasn't Carignan Gris, Nikki, but not far off, not far off. It's muscat, and that would be for people to eat while they were picking. So again, we're hand harvesting. We will be hand harvesting all of this. But for those of you thinking, whoa, it just seems like a dream what you're doing down here, and are thinking, well, perhaps I ought to buy a little vineyard, just a quick reminder of all the work that we've done so far in this vineyard. So if you remember when we bought it, it was pretty much like a jungle. So the first thing was Jean-Marc came in with his chainsaw, and he actually chainsawed off the branches of some of the vines so that he could get down here. Now we estimated that there's 4,000 vines in this vineyard. He probably cut off an average of about 3 branches per vine, so that's 12,000 branches that he's taken out of this vineyard. That alone took him 10 days to do with the chainsaw. That was the first job. It then took about 3 days, 3.5 days to remove those the wood, the branches out of the vineyard. So we've got a nice stock now for the summer barbecues. Following that, we pruned. It was a really difficult vineyard to prune because it hadn't really been pruned how we wanted it to be pruned for years and years and years. So this would have been in the cooperative before, where they would have wanted higher yields. We want really low yields on these vines. So we pruned, and then we ploughed, and we cut the grass first with Mignon, the little tractor. As you can see, they're planted, it's not that wide, it's about 1.60 meters apart, so you can't get a standard tractor down here. So this would have been our little cheniard, which we've named Mignon, thanks to you, and it would have come down here and ploughed. It would have replaced the horse. So originally it would have been ploughed with a horse, and then with a little cheniard tractor, Mignon. So we ploughed, we cut the grass, we ploughed, and then we strimmed between the vines. So here you couldn't get any machine down to actually cut the grass between the vines, so that was done by hand. That was another 3 days work just to cut the grass between the vines. And I was just showing you this. Did you see that? Can you see those? Oh, don't they look lovely? So we're really pleased in this vineyard so far. It's working really, really well because there's no couillure. Remember the other day we talked about couillure? The easy way to pronounce it, cool and yaw, coulure, and that is bad fruit set. So we would be seeing that now. If it was bad fruit set, there'd be like big gaps in between the bunches, but you can see there a lovely, lovely bunch of Grenache Gris forming already. And it's quite interesting, that's actually on the same plant as one that's not even started flowering yet. So we're sort of a bit at all stages in this particular vineyard. See a couple more there. And just something that I think is interesting, just show you this. If you've never seen an American rootstock vine before, so this is what happens to an American rootstock if the top has either, I think this one unfortunately has died, and it's just the rootstock that's left, and all these shoots come up from the American rootstock. There's no grapes on it, or there's little tiny grapes, but you can't pick them or use them. So Jean-Marc's next job, because it's not finished yet, is to come in with his favourite digger and to dig up the old vines. But I just wanted to show you a bit more of the work we're doing today. It's quite a French bit of work because it's actually called escapata. Oh, I think that's how you say it, which means beheading. So rather a French theme today. And I'm going to see Gilles. Escapita. Escapita is in the local dialect, and it's basically to decapitate. So this is Gilles, and he's decapitating the vines. Morning, Gilles. Hello. Hi. So I don't think we've met Gilles before. So morning, how are you?
Good morning, I'm fine. A bit windy, but
a bit windy. I know. Sometimes I just repeat what you say because of the micro, but it's fine. So this is Gilles. Gilles' been with us, is it 2.5 years now?
yeah, this is my third year.
Third year, wow, at Domaine Jones. And between us, actually, Gilles was quite a find. Perhaps you can just explain what you were doing before you came to Domaine Jones.
I had a doctorate in physics and engineering computer. And,
so a computer engineer.
and I was working in the university, basically teaching a little bit on scientific stuff.
Wasn't that more interesting than standing in a vineyard decapitating vines?
I think it's more interesting in the vineyards.
Definitely. Brilliant. So the work you're doing this morning is peut-être tu peux nous montrer ce que tu fais. So basically we're just coming in and we're stop 1 minute. I just want to show you something. Okay, can you see this? And there? Whose footprints do you think they are? Which brings me, so who do we think here? Who's been in the vineyard? And there. Oh, there's another one. Oh, this one's a better one here. Anybody got a clue who this could be? Oh, that's a great one there. You're thinking about it, Gilles? Boars, Liam, that's right. Wild boars, which brings me on to the competition. The first person to put 4 wild boars on the screen is going to get a packet of wild organic herbs from our vineyards. So let's get on with the beheading while Steve, you only put 2, we need 4 wild boar. And it's not Jean-Marc. Boar, yes, Joe. I think there's about a 20-second delay on this, so it's a shame you didn't get 4 boars up there, because Steve, here we go. Beer Ferry, 4 wild boar, congratulations. If you can direct message me your address and I'll get those herbs in the post to you. Right, back to the beheading. So, peut-être tu peux juste nous montrer, peut-être faire quelques, so just seeing what he's doing, and basically he's just walking up and down the rows.
Basically, je coupe celles qui sont les plus grandes pour pas que le poids et le vent les cassent en fait.
Okay, so basically it's cutting, I'll get out of the way, cutting them off just in case the wind comes in, because it is really windy and it's going to be windier. So the weight of the wind, and you can see, attends, ça c'est intéressant. So here, this is what happens if you don't take them off. You see this one already has been snapped by the wind. So we need to take those off. So we can just gently. And it's such a shame because look at all those grapes. Regarde les raisins. So all those grapes that are lost to the wind, basically. A nice unripe bunch of Grenache Gris. What a shame. Okay, so basically Gilles just going to walk up and down the rows, cutting off the top bits just to lighten, because these are sort of, I often liken it to my retirement home for old vines. These vines are 70 years old and I think they deserve a really big rest and just a lovely lifestyle in their final years. So we're organic 100%, and also we do everything to lower the yield so that they don't have to produce quite as many grapes. And like today, we're just, you know, giving them a bit of a haircut and just taking off those big long shoots that would weigh them down. Excellent, merci. S'il y a des questions, je reviens pour te poser les questions. So we'll let Gilles get on with his beheading, and he's got the whole vineyard to do just on the bigger shoots. But time is marching on. Let me take a look at the questions from you. So one from Tim here. Tim says, if some of the grapes are advanced, will you have to harvest at different stages? No, probably by the time we harvest, most of the grapes will have caught up. And that's, again, the work we're doing here is to sort of lighten the old bush vines so that more light can get in and more air can get in and it can circulate around, and that it can actually ripen the grapes evenly. So we would hope that if it's all the same grape variety like it is here, we will come in at the same time and hand harvest all of those grapes at the same time, apart from the muscat, which we would eat probably and not put in with the Grenache Gris. So lots of questions here. One from Dan. Hi Dan, in Thurmaston in Leicestershire. What's the plan with the Grenache Gris, single cuvee or in a blend? Well, this is the first year, as I mentioned, this is the first year that we're going to be actually making this wine. So it's all going to be a bit of a surprise. So this year, definitely, we're going to give it its own little vat in the winery, and we're going to keep it separate. And we're going to make one single vineyard Grenache Gris from this little vineyard. The little vineyard is actually called La Grande pièce, as in the big vineyard. Because in actual fact, this would relatively be quite a big vineyard here, where in Touchant it tends to be lots of little parcels of tiny little vineyards. This is 1 hectare of Grenache Gris. So yeah, that would be one single vat, and we hope to make about 3,000 bottles, perhaps 4,000 if we're lucky. So let's have a look. Any more questions? So thanks Joe. How long will it take Gilles to behead this vineyard? Well, he's actually been going pretty quickly, because he came down, he was in here about 7 o'clock this morning, and he's already done half of it. So I think give him another hour and a half, and he should have finished beheading all of these vines. Thanks Joe. Did you notice any birds there? I'll have to have a look back and see. And then let's see. One from Tony. Where's Jean-Marc today? I know, because I think I said I was going to be with Jean-Marc today. Where is Jean-Marc? Jean-Marc's had to pop into Perpignan for a tractor part. So he will be back, and that brings me on nicely to tomorrow. So tomorrow we will be in one of Jean-Marc's vineyards with Jean-Marc. So unfortunately he couldn't make it today. Look at that, isn't that just absolutely beautiful. Gorgeous wildflowers. So thanks very much for asking after Jean-Marc. Basically, you never really know what's going to happen from one day to the next. You plan something, and then it's when you wake up in the morning that, depending on the weather, which vineyard needs what doing to it, it all changes, or if the tractor breaks down too. So there we are. That's brought you one final question here. The land looks flat. Is that good? That's a really interesting question, I think, Nigel, because if I'd have had the choice, I wouldn't have gone for a flat vineyard down here in the plain, because as you can see, it's quite a lot of soil here, so it is quite fertile. This used to be an inland lake, and you've also got a bit of a river down at the end. So we've got lots of sort of sand and shale and bits of schist, and it's a bit of a mixture, but we have got quite a lot of topsoil. So had I been given the choice, I would have had this vineyard up on one of the slopes on the montage that you can see behind, just so that those vines have to work a little bit harder and they would produce less grapes. But with it being down here, I could not, there was no way that I was going to pass up on 1 hectare of Grenache Gris vines at all. So that never comes along twice. A hectare of Grenache Gris, just totally unheard of. So that's why we decided to buy it, because of the grape variety. And then we are already reducing the yield down. We don't want to overwork these vines. We want quality grapes from them. So we'll be thinning them out, and we've already pruned back a lot more than would have been done previously. Sounds like some of you had a bit of a problem with technology this morning. I'm sorry about that. And there we go. So thanks very much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed my very quick ramble around this lovely Grenache Gris vineyard that we will be signing for this afternoon. Very exciting. It's the first vineyard that we've actually signed for both of us, so we're going half and half on this vineyard, and then we're going to fight over who gets the grapes. I think it might be me. But so thanks very much for joining in. I'll be back tomorrow at the same time, and I'll be with Jean-Marc in one of his vineyards tomorrow, and we're looking forward to seeing you also Friday. Don't forget, we've got a tasting on the rock, so we'll be tasting the hairy Grenache on Friday. So thanks everybody for joining me. Have a lovely day, and hope to see you again tomorrow.